I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of story that changes the way you see the people closest to you. I walked into our house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, on an ordinary Friday afternoon. Nothing felt different. The sun was hitting the kitchen tiles and the smell of jasmine was in the air. But by the time I sat down for dinner that night, everything I thought I knew about my marriage was gone. And what I found out next, most people can't even bring themselves to say out loud. Before we go deeper into this case, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. My name is David. For 12 years, I believed I was living the American dream with my wife, Elena. She was a high-end real estate agent, charismatic and sharp, while I worked as a civil engineer. We had the house with the wraparound porch, the golden retriever, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. But perfection is often just a very expensive coat of paint over a crumbling foundation. The crack in that foundation appeared when I found an old burner phone tucked inside the lining of a suitcase she rarely used. I wasn't looking for it. I was just looking for a spare charger. When the screen flickered to life, my world didn't just tilt, it inverted. There were messages dating back 2 years. Messages to a man named Julian, a contractor she claimed was working on her luxury listings. They weren't talking about floor plans or kitchen islands. They were talking about a life without me. They were talking about money, my money. When Elena wasn't just having an affair, she was systematically siphoning funds from our joint investment accounts into a private offshore entity. She was preparing to leave me, but only after she had bled me dry. I felt a coldness settle in my chest that I can't describe. It wasn't rage, it was a calculated frozen clarity. When Elena came home that evening, she kissed my cheek. She smelled like expensive perfume and betrayal. I looked her in the eyes and smiled. "Hard day?" I asked. She sighed, playing the role of the exhausted professional to perfection. "The market is just brutal, David," she replied. I nodded, thinking about the brutal market she was creating for her own soul. That was the night I decided I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't scream. I would forgive her. At least that's what I'd let her believe. Over the next 6 months, I became the most attentive husband in Ohio. I brought her flowers for no reason. I suggested we reinvest in our future by moving more assets into the very accounts she was stealing from. I watched her eyes light up with greed, thinking I was a fool. She thought she had played me so well that I was handing her the keys to her new life with Julian. I even confessed to her that I had felt we were drifting apart and that I wanted to start over with a clean slate. I told her I forgave her for being so distant lately. She actually cried. She held me and told me she didn't deserve me. In that moment, she was right. She didn't deserve what I was about to do. Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. If you were in David's shoes, watching the person you love cry tears you knew were fake, would you have the strength to keep playing the part? While I was playing the doting husband, I was working behind the scenes with a forensic accountant and a private investigator named Miller. We tracked every cent. We documented every hotel meetup. But I needed a little twist to ensure she couldn't just walk away with the divorce settlement. I needed her to be the one who lost everything legally. I discovered that the offshore account she was using was tied to a fraudulent real estate scheme Julian was running. He was using Elena's credentials to flip properties that didn't exist. She was so blinded by her love for him, or perhaps her desire for a fresh start, that she didn't realize she was signing her name to federal crimes. I didn't stop her. I just made sure my name was nowhere near those documents. The right moment arrived on our 13th anniversary. I told Elena I had a surprise for her, a weekend getaway to a secluded cabin in the Hocking Hills. She was thrilled. She told Julian it would be the final trip before she officially filed for divorce and disappeared with the money. Little did she know, the cabin wasn't the surprise. The drive up was quiet. Elena spent most of it texting Julian under the seat, thinking I couldn't see the glow of the phone reflecting in the window. I talked about our early years, the small apartment we started in, and how much I valued loyalty. She just nodded and patted my hand, her mind already miles away in a tropical paradise with another man's arms around her. When we arrived, the cabin was beautiful, but isolated. I poured 2 glasses of wine. "To the truth," I said, raising my glass. She clinked hers against mine, smiling that deceptive smile. To the truth, she echoed. I waited for her to take a sip before I handed her a thick manila envelope. Happy anniversary, Elena. She opened it, expecting cruise tickets or a deed to a new property. Instead, she found photos of her and Julian. Then she found the bank records. And finally, she found the criminal indictment. Her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. David, I can explain, she stammered. I held up a hand. There's no need. I already forgave you, remember? I forgave you for the affair months ago. She looked confused, hope flickering in her eyes for a split second. You did. I leaned forward, the firelight casting long shadows across the room. Yes, I forgave you for being unfaithful, but I never said I'd protect you from the FBI. They're downstairs, by the way. Julian turned on you 3 hours ago to save his own skin. He gave them everything. The sound of heavy tires crunching on the gravel outside punctuated my words. Blue and red lights began to dance against the cabin walls. Elena scrambled to the window, her breath hitching in her throat. She looked back at me, her eyes wide with a terror I had never seen. You set me up, she whispered. I shook my head. No, Elena, you set yourself up. I just made sure I had a front row seat to the collapse. As the officers entered, I sat back and finished my wine. I watched them lead her out in handcuffs, her silk dress fluttering in the cold night air. She screamed my name, a mixture of rage and begging, but I didn't move. I had waited 6 months for this silence. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever heard. Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in my story, and share your thoughts in the comments. Did Elena get what she deserved, or was David's patience too cruel? In the end, Julian took a plea deal, but Elena's signatures were on the primary fraudulent deeds. She was sentenced to 8 years in a federal facility. I sold the house in Columbus and moved to the coast. I don't look for burner phones anymore, and I don't build foundations for people who only want to tear them down. I learned that the best way to move on isn't to forget. It's to ensure the person who hurt you never has the chance to do it to anyone else. Thank you for joining me for this story today. It's a reminder that sometimes the person sitting across the dinner table from you is a stranger, and sometimes the person they think is a fool is actually the one holding all the cards. If you enjoyed this journey into the truth behind the mask, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Family Secrets and Revenge, and share your overall thoughts based on my story in the comments. I truly value your perspective. Until next time, stay safe and keep your secrets close.